Let's get it today, guys. What's up to my man K9 in chat? Sheets should be joining me in just a little bit. All is going well over there, which is good. I'm going to just start with a real quick announcement. I am going to be out tomorrow. It's going to happen to me sporadically, probably one day a week. I will try to make up for it on a weekend day. And sorry about that, guys, but I will be in Discord. I will say my thoughts, and I hopefully maybe I can make it back in time for live. But got some things I got to take care of tomorrow that still going on. So I'll be out for that, but we're ready to get to it. There's a big slate, a lot of things to decide. And from what we are looking at right now, pretty condensed ownership. I'm guessing in the higher buy-ins, that may not be the case as much. And the good news is the stack that I'm looking at that's the most popular is a stack that I'm not all that interested in, and that's the Angels. I don't think Dunning is a bad pitcher. The Angels, without Rendon and Ward in the lineup, I think that's a much weaker lineup. So I am off of the Angels entirely. I don't have an Angel in any lineup. And if it bites me, it bites me. It's always scary not to have Trout or Ohtani. I might throw them in if I have space in one lineup, but I'm not doing it. So I am going to be going different. Sheets, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm just finishing up the upload here, and I'll be ready for discussion. I just overheard the tail end of you saying you weren't going to play the Angels. I see that their lineup is a little shitty, right?
Yeah, and Dunning isn't that bad, and they're going to be the most popular team from what I'm looking at right now. I'm not sure that'll hold up, but that's
you can't. I don't think it will if the lineup's going to be poor, right? I mean,
well, they still have Trout and Ohtani, and then now it's actually easier to get the stack in with Trout and Ohtani. So I actually think that they are getting more popular because of the lineup they have out.
Oh,
because you're going to have. People don't really care about how good hitters are a lot of the time. They just want the cheap guys. And now you've got, let me just take a quick look at the cheapness in their lineup that makes it just super easy to do. I'm sorry, I'm just grabbing it real quick. And for some reason I'm a little slow. I'm in my new setup. I'm at my girlfriend's place. I got my desk set up and I've got my multi-screen going. So
well, look at you. You're like a human being.
I know. Finally, not feeling like I'm on the road. I will be on the road though for a few days. But yeah, I mean, just you've got Walsh is reasonable. Matt Duffy's batting cleanup. He's 2K. Rengifo is 2.1 batting fifth. All of these guys who weren't going to be owned or weren't projected for anything at the end of the day, don't expect that to be true, especially if you're going to play Trout and Ohtani. Those guys are in particular.
Oh, so those guys are in. The guy that's out is Rendon.
Right. I do have Jared Walsh in a couple lineups because he fit at first base.
Is Marsh in?
Marsh is batting sixth.
Okay.
So, and then you've got, you could use the bottom of the lineup too, and Wade and Velasquez if you wanted to get weird with the stack. So there's ways to do it with every stack. I think that the other stacks are going to be lower enough owned. I'm a little concerned about the hitting weather for the Dodgers, who I really like. And the best hitting weather on the slate is also the game with the most risk in terms of weather because they get those pop-up storms in Atlanta. So it's basically taken Fried out of the running for me as a pitcher. And it's also Atlanta was going to be the stack I was going to be really, really heavy on. And I don't think I'm going to do that as it stands right now. So I'm going to get them some exposure for sure. But as of right now, I mean, if you're going to tell me the Dodgers are going to be what everybody's saying they're going to be owned, I will take shots and I will play the bottom of their lineup just in case, because I do think that they're going to be higher owned and high buy-ins, especially than people are projecting them for.
Well, did Rios get in?
Yep. Rios is in. Which is really the one. Rios is in, Bellinger is not.
Bellinger is not.
So, yeah, and so you've got, I do want to just throw out, I'm not using much of these guys, but I don't think it's a mistake to necessarily play Caprillion. And I'm not going to play Jordan Hicks, but I don't mind if you're doing that as a pivot off of what's turning out to be a somewhat owned George Kirby, who
I knew that. You
called that. You predicted that perfectly. Kirby and Sonny Gray is not going to be the low-owned thing that we might have thought earlier.
Yeah.
I also I am going to play a little bit of Syndergaard. Just bet on the long term. I'm going to play a little bit of Valdez, but I'm highest probably on Cease of anybody. I'm just going to play the max upside guys if I'm going to spend up on these slates, and he's the most likely to strike out the most guys, and I'll play him with Corbin Burns in those same lineups together, and then it forces you into a little bit of an uncomfortable-ish build, which is what I want. And you're going to, I think the other thing that's not being projected correctly that I'm looking at right now is I think the ownership of these A's is going to be higher than everybody thinks, depending on how their lineup comes out. because Noose, if he does bat second at 2,600, then you've got Lowry who would bat third at 2K. Then you've got Sean Murphy at 3.3, which depending on where he ends up in the lineup, seems like real value. Seth Brown usually bats cleanup, first base and outfield eligible is 2.4K. I think that mixing these A's in makes a lot of sense, but I'm guessing that other people will pick up on that too. And I'm not buying the under 5% owned out of all those guys. I just don't see it. I think you even tagged as a core play Lowry just because he makes things work, right?
Yeah.
Thought you did anyway. I think you did.
Yeah, I did.
So I've got the Dodgers, Yankees, Minnesota. I'm still using Toronto more as like two men here and there. I don't buy that run total, and I just think Toronto's going to explode one of these days. I'd like to be on it. We see them do this. They went through like a 10 or 12 game stretch last year where I think they scored no more than like 3 runs in any of those games, and they were the most popular team every night. And then they went on to score like 10 or more in like 5 out of the next 6. They ended up, they scored the most runs in baseball last year, and they hit the most home runs. So I'm going to get back onto some of that.
I am going to be in my. I'm going a little bit different than I was going earlier. I knew there was going to be one of these pitchers I was going to settle on that's going to make me a little uncomfortable, and I think I figured out which one it's going to be. And I think it's going to be Zach Gallen. I don't think I can get to Burns at that ownership. And I think the natural pivots obviously cease, and so I'm going to probably have more Gallen than I'm supposed to on both sites.
I'm going to take a quick look at the update because I have Gallen too. Look, you're going to mix in different pitchers. So it's just the kind of night where if you're multi-entering, I think it's the right thing to do even. But I had Gallen as in a similar ownership category, which looks like it's sort of gone away. Wow, under 10%, it seems a little too ridiculous. So I like that idea. Again, I would have even considered Fried as one of the guys, if not for the weather concerns that are popping up in the middle of the game. Because Fried is a guy, it's hard to get 5 innings from Fried and be profitable, but you can get 7 innings from him and be profitable. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's what he does. He eats up innings and he doesn't strike out as many guys per inning, etc. So those are your guys. So yeah, I have my favorites as Cease, Burns. I mean, look, this is not counting Cease, Burns, Gallen, Gray, Gaussman. I am playing Gaussman. I'm using Gaussman on FanDuel, actually. Partially, he has a little bit of a savings off the very top. But more importantly, like the one thing this guy does is he doesn't walk people, which just gives him a better chance for the quality start. I also like his chance for the win tonight, as I do like Arizona's stack a little bit. Sheets, what do you that Arizona and Houston are the two like I'm using as complementary stacks and a few full stacks of them. Are you using any of those?
Yeah, you know what I'm getting? I'm doing some White Sox. I'm doing some Arizona, and I'm actually screwing around with a little Cleveland.
Interesting.
Just for a little. I mean, again, just definitely not the best matchup in the world, but as we talked about, I mean, they do have the capability of doing something, and it's never a bad idea to have Jose Ramirez working for you,
Yeah, I know. I always love Jose Ramirez, and I do have some Rosario one-offs because he's just fit in a spot where I couldn't get a shortstop that made sense.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get to the full stack myself because I just think Valdez is a really good overlooked play tonight.
Yeah, I'm getting very little of the full stack, but I'm getting. I think these White Sox without Robert, I kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
And on FanDuel, Abreu was like 2,800. And Pollock's 2,600.
Yep. And don't forget, look, if you're going to play some White Sox, don't forget to include my guy Sheets, who I did put as one of my guys. It feels like a perfect home run matchup for him. I also think, I know it's weird to keep talking about this with pitchers, but like we probably should take a little more notice of what Pivetta is doing. And if you're going to play some White Sox, maybe in one of your 20, you throw Pivetta out there because I think that, we can't say the upside's not there. The problem is he's coming off a complete game against Houston. But if you put a right-handed dominant lineup against him where all of your lefties are switch hitters except for Sheets, I guess at the bottom of the order, Laurie. But there's a lot of righties in there. And Pivetta can always have, he has a high K rate against righties for his career. So he is an interesting, like, off the board play, which maybe shouldn't be so far off the board at 7,800 after 3 terrific starts in a row, including one against this White Sox team. All right. Yeah, the chalk stacks are going to be right now. I have Arizona as the chalkiest, but I'm guessing it really depends on your buy-in. I do think the Dodgers, people will find ways to get to them. They're hard to get to if you want to play the top pitchers. I'll tell you that. But I think people will find a way to get to them in the high buy-ins. I think that I think you're going to see a lot of teams owned in the 10 to 20% range, and not anybody really over that, or 10 to 15% range. Sheets, is that sort of what you got to?
Yeah, I mean, I just find it a little kind of difficult to believe that something like Arizona is going to be that popular.
Right.
Just because, I mean, there's other things you can do. I mean, there's
right, and are people really even as good of a play as I like? As much as I like Varsho tonight, is he really going to end up at 4,900? Going to be the chalk play? We'll see.
There's no way, right? I don't know.
It's hard for me. It's hard for all because I love him.
Oh, by the way, are we didn't talk about this? Are we supposed to keep playing on that guy from Baltimore while he's under 3K or what under? Oh, he's not under 3K anymore.
The catcher.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're probably supposed to keep playing him, right?
Yeah, in general. Yeah. Sorry about that. Just double checking the notes here. All right. Kirby or Gray was a question to me. I don't think they're particularly close. I think that Kirby is your long shot play who's no longer becoming as much of a long shot.
Yep.
And I think Gray is your standard play. But Gray will be the most popular pitcher, right, Sheets?
Yep, absolutely.
So Gray has a higher floor and probably a higher ceiling, actually. Maybe not per inning, but overall a higher ceiling. So it's definitely Gray, but it's just you get a little bit of a discount on Kirby, which, by the way, that 800 makes a difference more today than it has on some other days, because a lot of these guys I really want to get in today are really expensive, whether it's Judge and the Dodgers and all that, which is why I think people are going to play these other stacks, and I'm going to stick with my favorites because I can find ways to get them in by playing those two together. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And you'll find some similar builds, but you've got some savers on some of these teams. You got Marwin Gonzalez and Miguel Andujar, who are both 2.5 and 2.1. You've got, for the Dodgers, you've got Rios, who I expect to be popular, even though the ownership does not have him as popular. And look, the Dodgers are facing their former guy who they were in love with forever. So I'll take the catcher who got some experience catching him in both levels, minors and majors. And
that worked out yesterday for something. I forget which one it was.
Yeah. But yeah, the Dodgers are easy to get different with by playing Justin Turner, Chris Taylor, or Gavin Lux. I don't think those guys are going to be owned by hardly anybody. And the Yankees are going to be you can play all those cheap guys I mentioned in the bottom of the order. I actually don't think outside of Judge, Hicks, and Stanton that the Yankees end up overly owned. I think it's going to be those three that get the ownership love. And Minnesota, I think you'll see Buxton and Kepler really popular. But I think, as I said earlier, I just wasn't buying Correa. Correa was projected 25%. And the first thing I looked at today, I was like, there's no way Correa is going to be that high owned at 5,400. It's kind of a slate. But you can mix in, Gary Sanchez at 4.8. If everybody really does play Varsho and Will Smith, then Gary Sanchez should get overlooked. And then you've got Celestino as your cheapo at 2K that makes the stack work. So that's the way I'm going about my stacking tonight.
Yeah.
And Green Monsters Arizona stack on FanDuel. Yeah, I'm guessing that either a question or a comment. I'm totally on board with an Arizona stack. I do think they end up pretty popular, especially on FanDuel. Bill Miller. Yeah, that's the Twins game. Both. Tonight Twins game. Both. I don't know what that means. Bill Miller, Buckner. Oh, CB Buckner. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't particularly have a massive effect. I didn't see that CB Buckner was ended up scratched, and I wouldn't be surprised if anybody was scratched all of a sudden because, the Yankees must have. We didn't get an official word on why LeMahieu was scratched, right?
There's a big COVID outbreak in New York. I don't know if he's.
It's got to be. Josh Donaldson's out with it. And there was rumors about it. So I am still on C's to answer that question. Cheaper Astros like McCormick and Straw. That makes the lineup stacks work. I like I do like the Astros, so I think that I'm totally fine with. But Straw is not on the Astros. Straw is on the Indians.
Cleveland.
Yeah. So just make sure we look at which team you're stacking when you do that. And there is my original guy I was going to use was Castro catcher. It's gone. Sore wrist. It's just weird for me to buy it. Like he had a day off. They pinch hit him in the 8th or 9th last night. I don't know. Just feels like something's happening, but we'll see. With no Polanco, yeah, it does lower it a little bit for me, but it's not like Polanco is this monster hitter. Like, he's 5K. Don't let that fool you. It's not like, what is he hitting 250 with 3 home runs?
Right.
I don't necessarily need that. I'm more attracted to attacking this Detroit game. And I would prefer it as a 4-man or a 3-man to a 5-man, although I do have some 5-man stacks just because bullpen games just in general, never my favorite to stack. Let's see what else we got here. Sorry, there's a few other questions I thought we had in there. So yeah, they're saying sore wrist. I just don't know, Justin. Like that's Goldie in there, and I don't know. For some reason, I don't know. We'll see. I guess they don't. I guess they can sort of take things easy and go out cruised a little bit. They're off to an incredible start this year, so I don't think they need to worry about it too much. But I'm curious, Cheats. What I would have thought for sure by the time like we got back together today that you would have been all over the A's, just because of the pricing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one guy, that 2K guy. I'm getting some of the
Jed Lowry.
No, another guy, like Brandon something, or there's some dude. I don't know, some 2K.
Let me check.
I'm just looking at something else right now. So
yeah, that's right. Take your time.
Well, look him up. I'm telling you, it's a 2K guy. He's hitting like 6th or 7th or something.
Oh yeah, so they did. You got Pinder now. Oh my god,
wasn't even him. It was a guy I never heard of.
No, I know, but I've got to rechange my A's lineups because they're all different, which is really annoying. They put Pinder in because he's now field only. There goes my noose play. Oh, Kevin Smith in the batting 9th. Sure.
No.
Barrera.
Yeah, Barrera.
They're all guys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're all.
They're all guys. They're all is extremely.
Listen, if I was playing like the double pitchers, I'd probably do that.
Yeah, no, right, exactly. And then, but these are just guys.
Right.
Like Barrera, there's some talk about talent, but like he's still batting 7th. Like
there's some talk about talent.
and they're going to pinch hit for these guys. Like they always do.
Oh,
that's one other thing that makes the A's even worse of a play than they look like. Tony Kemp is also 2.6 leading off. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Their whole lineup basically costs what 2 Yankees cost if you played all 9 guys.
Funny.
It's pretty nuts. So another guy. By the way, I'm not stacking Seattle, but I do think some of the Seattle bats are worth mentioning. I mentioned Julio Rodriguez and Ty France earlier, and Jesse Winker. All 3 of those guys I think are really good plays, but I don't really want to get a full-on stack because I don't think Caprillion is bad, but I do think the A's bullpen is awful. So I guess it could work out. But yeah, the A's are. I mean, it is an interesting spot, right? You have all this minimum cost guys against a highly volatile pitcher. Just we were assuming that in a way because he's young. All these guys are, his control has been good so far in his brief time up. He got hit around a little bit by Boston, but that certainly is going to happen sometimes. And the last time he had the Mets before that, which is tough. Pitched great his first game against Tampa Bay. Kirby's got incredible elite talent, but for these young guys as pitchers, it does take a while sometimes. You know what I mean? We did it with Tristan McKenzie last year. You play McKenzie at like 1% ownership, or you can stack against him no one wants to stack against him either, but he might walk 5 guys in the first 2 innings and be out of the game by the 3rd and giving up, 7 runs or something.
Right.
I just answered my other M's that I like. Yeah, I hear you. It's funny. Do I like Bueller tonight? I just don't see look, he fits into the same category as the other guys. What's different is that I'm not gonna say there's something wrong with him yet. He hasn't looked right in his last few outings. I'm not sure. I don't have any advanced insight into it. He just hasn't looked quite right, especially from the strikeout perspective. He's not really making people miss at all. He had the elite start against Arizona earlier this year where he had the complete game shutout. But I feel like Bueller is a little behind the other guys for me. So I'm not ending up getting to Bueller and Fried, which sucked because I think in real life, if you ask me who had to win a playoff game, I would pick these guys way ahead of Burns, way ahead of Cease. But you want to ask me who's going to have the most strikeouts in 6 innings in a regular season game where you're going to take it easy on your pitchers unless they're like just crushing. I'm siding with the other guys a little bit. It is worth noting, by the way, the Dodgers run total has dropped a ton today. on both in reality in terms of the overall lines, but some of the implied lines we got, from SaberSim, which are different than the regular lines. We had a Dodgers at almost a full run higher, which is pretty rare that a team drops by that much. And I think it's just because people caught on to the weather. All right. Let's see what else we got. It doesn't look like there's any basketball questions tonight, which is maybe good. I do like Dallas for what it's worth. I did put that in my thing. That's my one free thing. It's not my favorite bet of the night. You guys can check out my things. I will give away with the other free one that I said earlier. I do think the Bueller 4.5K prop is just kind of silly.
It stayed there, huh?
You're just gonna make that bet and just live with the result every time. Just doesn't matter as long as it's 4.5, even if it's 5.5. To be honest, that's like almost always an over for him. Like you've had a couple starts where it hasn't been lately, where he was off. I'm not going to read too much into it. Yeah, so Matt Duffy, I had it like 2% owned a minute ago. Now he's looking like he's 25% owned. So he's probably somewhere around 20 is where I guess by the end of it. Matt Duffy, who I actually played in a softball league with his cousin. Intramural. Yeah, it was like a fun little softball league, but said he's a good guy. Have been updated. They should be available as soon as. Okay, I'm just taking a look, see if anything else. Guys, dropping anything else? I'm gonna go in probably 8-ish minutes or so because I want to finish building out what I'm actually talking about. And I've got to get a lot of A's out of my lineups who are filler pieces that I need to refill. It's an easy switch, though. For those of you who had Noose in your lineups, if you have 100 more to spare, you can play Listella instead. And I think that's really makes a lot of sense, actually. If you didn't have 100 to spare, I don't know what to tell you. Kind of needed that 100. There's not like a direct pivot at third base that makes sense. Kevin Smith would be the guy at 2K flat. Another team that's cheap that I don't mind cheap pieces from is Baltimore. But again, just pieces. I'm not trying to stack. I just want to, maybe.
I like Mountcastle.
Yeah, Mountcastle, Santander. I mean, even if you wanted to go to the I always get the Mateo and what's his name mixed up.
I get it.
Urias. Urias is the one. I feel like Urias hits a home run every time Garrett Cole pitches. I'm not sure. I have nothing to track this. I could find out, but I swear he's hit home runs off of him like the last 3 times they faced. I think all of his home runs this year off Garrett Cole. I just noticed it from my last night visually. I don't notice that. I didn't read anything about it, so don't take my word for that.
Okay.
Now I've got way too much Stella because I basically had him and Noose as my cheap third baseman.
What's he hitting now?
We don't know, but he's projected to lead off.
Last time he was pretty chalky. Someone came into this chat and said, "Don't play him because he's going to get pinch hit for."
Yeah, it's possible. He's been pinch hit for once this season.
Okay.
He's only played 5 games. And one of them, he was the pinch hitter. So, and you have to know the Mets lefties. Are we sure the Mets are necessarily bringing in a lefty? Yeah, maybe they do. But there's going to be righties in the lineup too at the top with Ruff and Flores. So it just depends on how they approach it. The Giants are always a little bit of a risk for that.
If you have to leave, why don't you drop a couple of takes? What do you like in the NBA?
So I like the Mavs to win. I think Luka should be your captain. It's going to be pretty boring stuff, unfortunately. I think Kleber is – he's been so horrible in this series. It's actually – he's put up sheets in the 3 games so far in the series? He's put up 27 fantasy points in 3 games.
Yeah.
And he's like he was like the key guy to their team, you know what I mean? Because he helps them space the floor. They can play 5 guys who can all shoot. All that stuff, and he's just been dreadful. I don't have like a way off the board guy. I would be a little concerned at the ownership on Moody getting a little too high, but he's so cheap, it's hard not to.
Is he getting in?
Yeah, he's been playing every game.
Okay,
but his 16 minutes in the last game, I don't necessarily expect to repeat that. I mean, they would take multiple foul trouble again, probably for that to happen. It's possible, just unlikely, I think.
What is the score in the series?
3-0.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go out and just say that I think that if anybody can have like a weird out of nowhere slate breaking something. Well, okay, this is not a slate breaking thing. one thing you could do to get off of any, Jordan Poole chalk is to play Damian Lee instead. I don't think it's a great idea, but it's, you want to try and think creatively. There's really not a whole lot of guys. I could see maybe Dallas letting Josh Green play a few minutes. Maybe they go really small and do something weird and play Bertans a bunch. That could be something to do. I don't expect him to get any ownership. But I mean, I don't really have it's hard to get hot takey with games that you expect to stay close, and you have to sort of play the blowout angle and then hope certain guys get run. And I guess Jonathan Kuminga would be that guy, even though he's only played in the first game in this series and is likely not to play any minutes. And that's what you sort of have to do to win these days, is to play. Duncan Robinson was that guy last night. You know what I mean? He comes in because it's a 30-point game or 20, whatever. I mean, or in early on, and also Struss literally missed. I think he was 0 for 10 or something. He was terrible the game before. Anyway,
I do think that Luka is a very, very difficult fade tonight because, especially down 3-0, I think they're gonna,
it worked.
And even if the game's over, they're just gonna leave him in.
It's there's no question about it. You'd have to be sure he scores less than 50 fantasy points, I think, in order not to play him. And I just think that's almost impossible for him.
And he's gonna have 100% usage rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. So I don't have a lot of great basketball takes. That's why I'm not playing the NBA tonight. I'm gonna play every one in the finals, every single one of the games. But it's nobody I feel like I want to die on their hill. I think Bertans might be my favorite get weird play, and it's not even that weird. And Josh Green is my speculative play. I thought they might do the Marquise Chris thing. We got it in game one.
I saw that.
And then we haven't seen it, but I keep thinking maybe there's a chance, but I don't think so in this one.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, and if you were going to captain a non-Luka player, instead of trying to captain one of the other studs, I do think there is a way you could get all the other guys you want, depending on whether that be Wiggins and whatever, Wiggins, Steph, Clay. If you tried something weird with this is the problem, is every name I say, I feel just awful while I'm saying it. If you tried something weird with
Bielitsa
wouldn't quite be the guy for me. I think that as much as Moody gets played, I don't think he'll be there in the captain spot. So I might fade Moody out of my regular builds and only have him as captain eligible.
That's interesting.
Just as a way to, do something a little bit different. And I think some people will actually throw him in there, but I just don't think it's going to be a common way to go. It's hard because they need to win here, and it's given Dinwiddie all the run. But if Dallas is playing up, those Dinwiddie minutes could easily turn into Ntilikina. So maybe Ntilikina with Bertans, there's a chance that actually could work. Dallas sort of pulling away up by 25 in the third and leave those guys out there because the Warriors pull their starter or something like that.
I have a question. Why did Moody get in?
Moody's gotten in. He's played every game.
Okay.
It's just because they play multiple guards in Dallas, and they've also been in foul trouble at different points. And Moody's they like his athleticism and things like that. But in this series, he played 5 in the first game, 10 in the second game, 16 in the last game. He didn't do anything, but I'll take those minutes at 1K.
Maybe isn't that? I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to fade that.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was saying. If you're going to use it, why not use it for the ultimate upside part and hope he gets 12 fantasy points, and then you're crushing because if your big guys, of course, go nuts.
You know what? He played 5, then 10, then 16. Do you want to investigate how he got in? I mean,
no, he's played every game. There's no.
He's like part of the rotation.
In this series, it's just, this is how the playoffs work. Kuminga was starting in the series in series 1 or series 1 and 2, and then they struggled and they took him out. But there's no what's it called either. They don't have Otto Porter.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's not an outlier though. Like that without Otto Porter anyway. That's not an outlier.
Okay.
Jan Gomes has been scratched. That's meaningless. That's the game that's not on the slate. All right, I am going to run, and it looks like the questions have dried up. Oh, any love for Texas on DK? My answer to that is I have 0 Texas. But I mean, look, just because they beat up Syndergaard the last time, I actually go the other way. I would say Syndergaard is the bet this time. So
I mean, look, you could always play Corey Seager.
Of course. And you could stack Texas. I mean, it just worked. They just beat the hell out of Syndergaard last time you played them, but I'm not saying that it's going to happen this time. That doesn't happen back-to-back games very often.
One really just minor thing that I don't know if anybody caught, but I've been asking SaberSim to do this for a year now, and they finally did. Maybe not just because of me, but you can now use SaberSim to build tennis lineups. Finally.
Yeah, it's awesome, and some other people did ask us about that, which I think is really great. And if you guys haven't checked out the SaberSim stuff, I think it's pretty awesome. All right, well, Sheets, I'm going to leave you. Hope you guys have a good night. Sheets, I'll see you in a little bit.
I will.
And, good luck, guys.
All right, and I'm going to cut out also. Good luck, everybody.